Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and a surprising Nintendo Twtter Direct has been happening. Over this week we've been getting a variety of announcements, especially in the last 24 hours. So much has come out. We've learned a lot about different Switch 2 games coming out over the next couple months. We've gotten various announcements for the future. We've learned about a big new theme park announcement. We've even gotten some very interesting sales updates. And so we're going to be getting into all of that today, but also getting into the implications for what this may mean for a general Nintendo Direct in presumably February, which, by the way, yes, most of us, myself included, still expect this to happen. So that's what we're discussing today. Now, before diving into things, let me just say I have this goal to reach 60,000 subscribers, so if you do enjoy my videos, I would very much appreciate your subscription if you haven't done so already. So diving into these sales updates first here, Circana has put out a new report on sales in the US for December 2025. Now, as you see for this chart right here, it's actually a reporting period between November 30th through January 3rd, so it's actually a little bit of a larger range here than just December. But what people are pointing out about these sales here, you'll notice that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is ranked 7th in these top 20 sales through this period here. And that's pretty good, especially considering this little asterisk where it's noting that digital sales are not included here, and Metroid Prime 4 for several weeks was at the very top of the eShop charts. So that does bode well for Metroid Prime 4 sales. Now, does that tell us how much it has sold exactly? No, it does not. We still do not know just how well Metroid Prime 4 is doing, but these are positive signs. Some things to keep in mind, though, that might temper expectations a bit. Look at Pokemon Legends ZA. Pokemon Legends ZA is ranked 6th, and that game came out in October. So it has clearly better staying power than Metroid here, because Metroid Prime 4 just came out in the month of December. The month where it would have the strongest sales would be its release month. So that is something else we should keep in mind. And perhaps what's most surprising is Donkey Kong Bonanza. Donkey Kong Bonanza, which came out in July, is still pretty high up here, ranked 9th overall, 14th last month, which suggests that Donkey Kong Bonanza is going to have strong evergreen sales. Now, some of you might be wondering, well, where's Mario Kart World? Doesn't Mario Kart always sell incredible? Yeah, but let's remind ourselves that there is still the Switch 2 bundle with Mario Kart World already. Most people are just buying that version, because that is clearly the best value there by a significant degree. But it's not just software sales we've heard about, but also hardware sales. The Switch 2 in the United States, for its first 7 months, has hit 4.4 million units. So what this means is this: the Switch 2 is still the fastest selling system of all time in the United States. It is also the best selling console in the United States for all of 2025. Even though it was out on the market far lesser than all the other platforms. And if you align the amount of time both platforms have been out, the Switch 2 actually currently has about double the current overall sales 7 months being into the market compared to Switch 1's first 7 months. It's also 35% ahead of PS4's trajectory for its first 7 months on the market as well. So basically, as we talked about a few weeks ago, all the doom and glooming, misinterpreting information for clicks was, well, that. Misinterpreting information, twisting the facts to feed into just false narratives. The Switch 2 is still performing well, it is still selling well. Now, is it the case that right now, overall hardware sales, not just for Nintendo, but for the entire industry, because of the overall economic climate? Yes, that part is still true, but everything I just told you is factual information. The Nintendo Switch 2 is still doing very well, still pacing to be the fastest selling console of all time, and still projecting to be hitting its increased forecast of 19 million by the end of the fiscal year. So this is mostly strong, good, promising news for Switch 2 sales. But you want to know what's probably going to contribute to Nintendo's success here? Another theme park. We just got an official announcement literally last night. Like, just a few minutes after midnight here, so technically earlier today. And here it is. This is a translation from the official Universal Studios Japan Twitter account. Breaking news. The birth of a new Pokemon experience, global development project launched. Based on a hyper-realistic experience that stimulates all 5 senses, it brings the Pokemon world to life in an unprecedentedly interactive and rich way. Currently preparing for its world premiere at Universal Studios Japan. Evolving. So, we just got an official announcement that there is going to be some kind of Pokemon experience at Universal Studios. Now, what I find increasingly interesting about this is not just the fact that we're getting this hyper-realistic experience that stimulates all 5 senses, bringing the Pokemon world to life, but that there's no mention of Super Nintendo World. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I've been predicting that the next expansion to Super Nintendo World is actually for The Legend of Zelda. And maybe this news here would suggest otherwise, but the fact that it's not being mentioned as part of Super Nintendo World does lead me to believe that it might be a separate thing. Reminder, Pokemon Company does operate separately from Nintendo. Yes, Nintendo does own Pokemon, but there are other parties involved. And so production on a Pokemon park and a Zelda park could in theory happen around the same time and even release around the same time, give or take a year or so. I don't think that's actually out of the question, so I would not give up on an announcement for a Zelda Universal expansion to Super Nintendo World later this year as part of the 40th anniversary celebration for the series. Let's remind ourselves that Pokemon Company is also hard pushing Pokemon's 30th anniversary. They are literally marketing it quite clearly, quite obviously. It's official, it's not up for debate. So an announcement like this makes a lot of sense. So fingers crossed we get both, but at least we're getting some Pokemon stuff for Universal, and that sounds pretty awesome. Now, there are a lot of game announcements to get to here, but there's something I want to talk about regarding Final Fantasy VII Remake, because the game just came out and reviews are actually quite stellar. It's reviewed very well. It's a very good version on the Nintendo Switch 2 that is very comparable to the PlayStation 5 version. Obviously, PS5 is a more powerful platform. It can run things at a higher resolution. It has a performance mode and all that. But the Switch 2 version runs at a solid frame rate, good image quality, looks great. And so that's awesome. But the series director, Naoki Hamaguchi, had some things to say about the future of the series on Switch 2. There's not a huge amount of information I can share in terms of future games, but it can reassure players that we are working on the Nintendo Switch 2 version of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the second game in the series, and the third game too. They are being worked on for Nintendo Switch 2 alongside the other platforms right now. One thing to reassure fans who want to play these games on Nintendo Switch 2, I've got a personal policy where I don't want to make any versions of my games different or offer a different gameplay experience just because they are on different hardware. That might get confusing for players, and they might wonder which version of the game they should buy. That's something I'd like very much to avoid. The Nintendo Switch 2 versions are being developed in a way that keeps the gameplay experience pretty much exactly the same as all other platforms. So I hope this reassures Nintendo Switch 2 players. So we've gotten some hints about this before, but here is another example of the Final Fantasy VII Remake director telling us that the next games are going to be the same experience on Nintendo Switch 2, and after having gone this very exceptional port of this game on Switch 2, that bodes very, very well for the rest of the games in the series. But let's start getting into some pretty significant game announcements that happened this week, including within the last 24 hours. Now, this one happened a couple days ago, but it's actually very, very surprising. We got a free update to Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. This applies to both the Switch 1 and Switch 2 versions. So Dixie Kong has been added to the game. You can play with her in single player or 2-player co-op. But there's more to this. They've added high-speed versions for every level in Turbo Attack mode. So there's a whole new mode to speedrun through all the levels in the game. They've added Dixie Kong. These are awesome. But also on the Switch 2, they've enhanced the resolution, they've improved some little graphical oddities, and the load times are faster, so the game looks and runs better on Nintendo Switch 2, which is great. We've got a free enhancement there. But on the note of improving some little graphical oddities, GameXplain actually did a great job of covering this. They noticed that there was a fur issue during certain instances in the original release for Country Returns HD last year, so there would be times where Donkey Kong's fur would look very simple, that has been fixed. The fur looks glorious in all instances now after this update. But also, there was issues with the sun in certain backgrounds. That has been fixed. And there was even a weird oversight where in co-op mode, players would not be able to land on the same enemies, so this would cause some issues when playing together, where if you both land on the same enemy at the same time, only one of them would actually land on the enemy, the other player would get hurt. This has been fixed, so co-op mode now works beautifully, the game looks better, it loads faster, Dixie Kong is now a new playable character in this game, and there's a new speedrun mode. Honestly, this free update sounds pretty exceptional, and I think it's perhaps motivating me for buying this game again. I had it initially with its original release on Nintendo Wii, and I kind of held off on picking it up early last year, but now I think I might just do it. But as I said earlier, over these last 24 hours, there has been a lot of announcements. One of them, here Nintendo announces on Twitter, team battles have come to Knockout Tour in Mario Kart World. Drive to survive with or against friends in 2, 3, or 4 teams online via local wireless or over LAN play. So this is a neat little update that you can now play Knockout Tour in teams. I actually really enjoy playing in teams, trying to be the reason that my team pulls ahead in whatever competition we're having. And so I'm pretty happy they added this in here, and this is perhaps just maybe a little bit of a primer for what's to come in the not so distant future. I do think that we're going to be getting a Mario Kart World expansion pass announced relatively soon, but I'll talk about that another day. Something else we got announced just a few hours ago is more information on the Switch 2 edition for Super Mario Bros. Wonder plus Meetup in Bella Bell Park. Now, this expansion is mostly focused on multiplayer content, but they are adding new boss courses with all the Koopalings. There's a little bit of some adventure there, and there are 2 new playable characters in Rosalina and co-star Luma. But then on top of that, they also announced 3 new amiibo coming out on March 26th. Elephant Mario, Captain Toad and Talking Flower as one amiibo, and Poplin and Plintforian as another single amiibo set. So these amiibo coming out so much later after the original release is certainly very interesting. And we've already had some amiibo theories because there are rumors that there's going to be a lot of Zelda amiibo this year and a Luigi's Mansion amiibo this year, which leads us to believe that there will be Zelda stuff for the 40th anniversary and also the release for Luigi's Mansion 4, which is all more reasons to think that there's going to be a bigger Nintendo Direct in the not so distant future. But before getting into that conversation, Nintendo showed off more footage of the Talking Flower. This is an ornament you can put in your house. It talks. It tells you the time of day, it responds to the weather, and there's a whole bunch of neat, fun little voice lines that they demonstrate in this trailer here, or this little bit of footage. To be honest with you, this is pretty compelling. I think I might be more interested in this than picking up the Switch 2 edition for Mario Wonder, because I already 100%ed the base game, and personally, the multiplayer stuff doesn't really do that much for me. But this Talking Flower, though, that might be a good fit to have in my living room. But Nintendo had at least one more announcement that would drain you of your bank account. There is a teaser here for another Mario Kart Lego set. They show off Mario, but also to the side, they show Luigi squeezing in. So they're teasing another Mario Kart Lego set here. This one has to do with Luigi in his kart. And so over the last 24 hours, that has been the recent news. It's quite a bit. And I'll also point out that we did just get that interview with the Metroid Prime 4 team about the development of the game. So there really has been a lot of news this week. But the talk of the town has been, when are we getting that general Nintendo Direct? And there is a lot of speculation, there's a lot of rumors out there. I definitely think it's still happening in February. I wouldn't look at this information that we just got as a reason to think that there's not a Nintendo Direct happening anytime soon. News happens all throughout the year, every month of the year, some months more so than others. And when you think about all the news we just got is really perhaps a primer for what's to come. Earlier I did allude to how this recent Mario Kart update might be a nice setup for a bigger announcement for Mario Kart World later on. That could maybe show up in the next Nintendo Direct. Clearing up everything we need to know about Mario Bros. Wonder's Switch 2 edition also provide more time for other games to get a focus in the Nintendo Direct. Because right now what's happening is that we're getting to a point where we don't know about any release dates beyond March, and so Now we're getting to that point where Nintendo needs to start confirming other release dates for other games beyond their fiscal year. Now, technically, the Nintendo Direct doesn't have to happen in February. Technically, there's still time in January, although I doubt it's going to happen this month. It could perhaps even happen in March. Nintendo has done that before. So I do want to point that out there, that there is still the possibility that we have to wait as long as March. However, I personally don't think that's going to be the case. I think February is the time it's going to happen. There's still a lot we need to learn about from just games that are already announced, like when is Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave coming out, when is Dustbloods coming out, and there are some other third-party games like Elden Ring, when's that supposed to come out. We're probably going to get an update on Yoshi and the Mysterious Book in terms of when it's coming out before the Mario movie happens, and actually on the note of the Mario movie, we're in need of a new trailer. That may happen before the Direct, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's another one in the Direct. Not counting the teaser for Yoshi at the end of the first Mario movie, we have not seen anything of Yoshi in this Galaxy movie, the second movie. However, we recently just got an interview with Chris Pratt, the voice for Mario, who did say there are other new characters in this movie that he's excited for people to learn about. I presume that Yoshi is definitely one of them. And so there's still a lot of news that needs to happen with that as well. So, point is, don't worry, this latest news does not mean a Nintendo Direct is not happening. We need to learn about a lot. Nintendo does need to make announcements for even beyond things we already know about. Of course, we're still not even a full year into the Switch 2's life cycle. They need to continue to push the momentum for this new generation so they can continue to maintain strong sales and perhaps have even better sales than what we've seen so far. That's it. That is the summary for all the big news, the big Twitter Direct we had this week. Assuming there's not anything else announced within the next few hours. Of course, if that does happen, I will cover it here on the channel. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I will see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.